The United States of America currently has 40-year high inflation. The last print was at 8.6%. We haven't seen that since the 1980s. And of course, there's many people who are asking themselves, how did we get here? Now, there's some things in the supply chain that have been disrupted. There's obviously geopolitical issues like the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But really, most of it was driven by undisciplined monetary and fiscal policy. As we got the COVID pandemic, all of a sudden, the government and the central bank decided they needed to step into the market. They went ahead and they dropped interest rates to zero, and they pumped liquidity into every exotic corner of the financial system that they could find. All of that loose monetary policy and all of those loose fiscal policies ended up handing tons and tons of free cash to Americans, which sounded like a great idea at the time, according to them. But unfortunately, when you go ahead and create so much free money and you just hand it out to people, it ends up driving inflationary pressures higher, and we get that 8.6% inflation that we're now facing today. Now, the state of California, they didn't seem to have learned from this past lesson. They just announced a brand new effort where they're going to hand more free cash directly to their citizens. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, states that millions of Californians will now be receiving up to $1,050 as part of a new middle-class tax rebate. That's more money in their pockets to help them fill up their gas tanks and put food on the table. It's pretty insane that the government thinks they have to give $1,000 to these individuals just to fill up their gas tank or to put food on their table. That's warning sign number one. If you start to look deeper and deeper into what's going on here, what you can find is that they're doing this via some sort of tax rebate. It's part of a $17 billion relief package, and about $9.5 billion of it is going towards these inflation relief funds. It'll go to about 23 million California taxpayers, and those folks can receive anywhere between $200 and $1,050, but they may not get it until early next year. If we then take a look, single tax filers, they can receive anywhere between $200 and $350. If somebody's making between $125,000 and $250,000 per year, state of California give it $200. Hope that fills your gas tank and puts some food on the table. If you look at joint tax filers, what you'll see here is that if you make between $250,000 and $500,000 per year, well, they'll give you $400. Again, fill up your gas tank, baby, and make sure you got food on the table. As we go and we take a look at these policies, what we are watching is that it appears politicians do not learn, even if those history lessons are only 2 years old. Handing out free money to citizens in this manner simply drives higher and higher inflation pressures. What we need instead is to allow the free market to work, rather than turn around and hand out money to people. Instead, what we should be doing is we should be incentivizing economic growth, and we should actually be allowing the free market to work. One thing that we do know is certain is that high gas prices are here, and they don't appear to be going away. We also know that food, the cost of it to eat at home, is up 12% over the last 12 months. It sounds great when a government says that they're going to hand you free money. It sounds amazing when they say they're going to help you fill up your gas tank or put food on your table. The problem is we're talking about giving $400 to households that make between $250,000 and $500,000 per year. This is absolutely insane. So the state of California is going to spend $9.5 billion to hand out a couple $100 to individuals. But at the end of the day, it doesn't solve the problem. What it does is it simply drives higher inflationary pressures, and it allows for the problem to persist. If you want to recognize that inflation is a problem, if you want to recognize that your citizens are suffering, you need to think from first principles, and you need to solve the pressures of inflation, not simply hand out more money because it makes it sound good. We're going into midterm elections, and don't think that there's not a connection between election season and free money getting handed out. Some people would even argue this is the equivalent of literally trying to buy votes. Now, I'm not going to go that far and say that's what they're doing, but what I am going to say is that this type of effort sounds great in theory, but it absolutely gets destroyed when you get into reality. Handing free money to people in this manner is not effective for actually solving the problem. Does it give them a couple $100 in their pocket? Absolutely. But if you're not going to give them the money until early next year, potentially, and you're also not going to solve the actual first principles problem, then all you're doing is grandstanding, and you're wasting $9.5 billion of the California state budget just so you can go on Twitter, tweet about how cool you are and how you're looking out for the citizens. At the end of the day, this doesn't help them nearly as much as you think it does, And it may even make the problem worse.